Well, I got interested in being a physician as a child because my father's a physician, and I went to medical school at Vanderbilt, and they had a division of nutrition. In the summer times, when I was home from college, I worked in a lab there for a guy by the name of Frank Blood, and the chairman of biochemistry was a nutrition person. My father had moved to be there on the faculty for a while, and he was in nutrition as well. So I was sort of inoculated early on. I wasn't, though. I went to medical school, and I was really planning to be an endocrinologist, and the chairman of biochemistry at Vanderbilt talked me out of that. I was working in Cairo with at the U.S. Naval Medical Research Unit, where Ananda Prasad discovered zinc deficiency. I was the most junior guy on that team, and Dr. Darby was our boss. And when I told him I was going to go to take a fellowship in endocrinology, see, in those days, partway through your training, you had to go into some service, and I was in public health service. He said, well, let's talk about it. And so we spent an evening together, and by the time dawn came, I had agreed to go back to Vanderbilt. And then opportunities just opened, and I've just been fortunate ever since. The experience in Cairo, that's where I learned about zinc. When I went there, I didn't know a thing about it. And I remember meeting Ananda Prasad, and of course I didn't know him from anybody, and he had just recently moved there from Iran. And I introduced myself, and he told me what we were going to do, and that was different than I had thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be studying iron deficiency and folic acid deficiency, and Ananda said, no, we're going to study zinc. And my immediate response was, well, are we going to galvanize them? And he just laughed and gave me a textbook to read, and I read a wonderful chapter by Underwood in his first volume of his treatise on trace metals in human and animal nutrition, and that's where I learned about zinc. And after that, I was just hooked. Well, I've been fortunate. I've had opportunity, and one of the opportunities that happened is I was recruited by the Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Research Service, by Walter Mertz and other people at Beltsville to go to North Dakota and be the first director of a trace element research laboratory, which then became a center. And I was there for 13 years, and we put together a program, and I had a group of people that I worked with who were extremely talented, and the opportunity to do that job and to facilitate those people, that was maybe the highlight of my life. And now from a research point of view, we had a group there that we could study zinc in the brain, and we had a very good, that's my personal interest, and we did some experiments in rats, and we had a wonderful experimental psychologist who really picked up the ball and designed the function assessment aspects of these things. I was simply designing a diet and deciding when we should feed animals and so forth and so on. So we had a wonderful collaboration, and we found that at least in rats, if you have zinc deficiency in progeny during early development, either during pregnancy or during lactation, and the mouse, or the rat is born early compared to a human, then when you put them, after weaning, if you put them on a normal diet, and when they become adults, they have impaired cognitive performance. That experiment turned out much better than I had ever thought, and I think it has broad implications for humans, because humans also get zinc deficient during pregnancy, and we could induce these changes in the progeny with very mild zinc deficiency in the rat. I suspect the same thing happens in humans. It'd be very difficult you couldn't do the study like that prospectively in a human, but you could, if you could figure out what people had been eating during their gestation or before they get pregnant, you could see whether you could improve performance, because you have previous generations who have not had that experience, have improved nutrition before conception. As you know, there's all sorts of things happen very early in gestation before the woman knows that she's pregnant. A lot of epigenetic things happen that are controlled by zinc, and that then sort of program things for the future. And so this work that we did showed the outcome in a model that is reproducible, and I don't know of anybody that, since I stopped doing that sort of thing, who's picked up the ball, really. But there are all sorts of histologic changes that happen in the animal, lots of abnormalities, and it's not molecular biology, but it's what happens in the whole creature. And of course, I have a bias. I think that's the most important kind of research you can do. It's great fun to do research too, but I think it's even more important to facilitate a whole research setting with a whole bunch of people, each pursuing their interest as well as pursuing my own personal interest. And so I really enjoyed that the most. Oh, I remember the first talk I gave. It was in 1967, and I had never been to a big national meeting. And on the last day, in the last session, and I was over in the pharmacology session, because in those days, they'd put you sometimes in another society to present something. And I'd done some work on lead poisoning and its effects on thyroid function in human beings. And so I was presenting this toxicological paper, and one of the curious things was there was one man in the audience. He was the director of a lab in Cincinnati, where they did a lot of work on lead. And I just remember him getting up, and we had a discussion, question and answer, and it went on for at least 10 minutes. But there I was, just me. In my career, I didn't do all these things alone, and my wife was part of it. She was the one who said, "That's a great opportunity, we better go." She said, "You should follow Suttons Law." You see, I'm an internist, and I had an interest in clinical research. And one of the sayings in medicine was, follow Suttons Law to get the answer to what's happening to the patient. Well, Suttons Law is you follow the money. Willie Sutton was a bank robber, and they asked him, "Why do you rob banks?" And he said, "Because that's where the money is." So I was on the faculty, a associate professor in biochemistry, and she said, "That opportunity is a rare opportunity, you better look into it." She was ready to go. And then she was very enthusiastic, early in our marriage when we went to Egypt too. She was really, she was a very adventuresome sort of person, probably more than I am.